Alright guys, here we are. This right here, we are actually under the vehicle. I'm gonna give you just back up just a little bit. This is a 2005 Cadillac STS. This should be the same like on the CTS or something like that. Okay, rear wheel drive. You see it's got the independent, rear suspension with the axle, drive axle, CV axle. And then you have your rear differential in the middle. You can see the fins right here to disperse heat. All right. Well, this car has been sitting in the field for 8 months, so that's why it looks like that. So now what we have is you have that clunking, you have that knocking at slow speeds. It feels like your drive shaft is wobbling, which very well could be true. It actually is. And could actually be that carrier bearing that's directly 12 o'clock just above the mufflers that I cut. But if you get up under here, you'll notice that there's 3 mounting points for this rear differential. One is just to the right of it. There's one. That bushing is perfectly fine. If you go left, there's the other mounting point. Okay, that bushing is fine. So I'm going to show you, the camera's going to get a little bit shaky, but I'm going to show you what's going on. You might have already located it, but I'm going to help you out if not. So here's your other bushing. Now this bushing, surprisingly enough, from spinning the wheels and all of that junk, will break loose in the middle and will start to wobble, and that thing will just be rolling up and down, and the front end of this differential will just be bouncing and whatnot. So this is already installed, the new they call it a differential mount bushing or differential mount. Okay, that is our new one. Okay, I'm going to warn you guys, there isn't no shortcuts to this, but you do not have to take out the axles. You will have to release this drive shaft, at least these bolts. Okay, so I'm going to give you the proper steps. You're going to get the bolts in the back, the 2 that I showed you. You're going to get those out of there, get them loose. Make sure you have a jack under here. Then you're going to come up here and you're going to get this bushing mount out. Okay, then your differential can drop down, and these bars will sit on here on both sides. Then you're going to need to get these 3, just these 3, the one holding on the drive shaft, 18 millimeters. So I use a 18 millimeter ratchet wrench and the socket, and it just goes really quick. Then once this leans down like so, then you get something in here and pop the drive shaft out. Now this differential can lean all the way down, and you can begin to extract that bushing. Now this is where the fun gets, because this bushing is actually pressed in. So once you get this thing to drop, it's going to be real wobbly and everything. I had to have somebody put, no, that was actually installing it. Getting it out is actually the tricky part. Installing is a little hard, but it's not too bad. So I'm going to back out of the vehicle. I'm going to show you your tools. These are the tools you're going to need. Okay? Not this. But you're going to need this long extension, of course. You need your regular ratchet. Got some extra stuff in here. Just trying to find the right sockets when I was down here. You're going to need an 18 millimeter. Let me see, where you at? You're going to need 7/8 or 22 millimeter. You need that 7/8 with the matching wrench, which is right here. These are for your mounting bolts. Okay. Your 18 and your 18 millimeter socket, wherever it went, it's going to be, this is 3/4, it's close. This is going to be for your drive shaft. Okay. You need this doohickey. You don't need a 10. You don't need none of this stuff. Let me see what else I got. That's it. I'm going to show you the most important one, though. this thing right here. This chisel. This is gonna be your key. Preferably a little bit shorter. We can put some vice grips on it, but this is what knocked out the bushing. Okay? So simply, I'm gonna show you the angle that I had to take to get that bushing out. So once this begins to lean down, as you can see it from this angle, it's gonna be about right in here, and you're gonna be doing this. You know, of course it's gonna be out of the mount because you done leaned it down, but you're gonna be right up along this axle. And what I did was, I was trying to knock the sides of it. Let me get a little bit closer. I was trying to knock the sides of the bushing out, and I was kind of crumpling it in. Hopefully it would collapse in half and come out. That wasn't the case. I actually had to put this in the middle of it and make me a groove halfway in to this bearing, because as you can see, this piece just fell out. This just fell out once it came down. I can just push it out, and nothing was left but just the metal around it that's pressed in. So let me show you. Actually, I got the piece. That will help you a lot better. Let me back up out of here. Let me see if I can find the piece. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, this other stuff you're gonna need. Yeah, there's our 18mm ratchet wrench. There's our hammer that we needed. Couple hammers that we needed. This thing helped out. Here's our 18mm socket. But this thing is what was in there. So this lip is actually towards the front of the vehicle. So as you can see, I didn't start to make progress. You see how I was trying to collapse it? That wasn't working. So actually I didn't start making progress until I got this up in there, found a groove, and just hammered this sucker, and it started sliding out. Once I got in that little groove, I was able to just push it right on out. It just went whoop, whoop, whoop. So collapsing the sides and stuff, I wouldn't really recommend it. I sprayed a bunch of brake loose on it, and then just got me a little groove in there, and just knocked it straight on out of there. Now, getting it back in, you guys are gonna have to watch this video over a couple times so you can learn this process. I'm trying to give it to you so it can save you at least a few hours. So what you're going back in is going to be the tricky part, because you have to get an extension that you really don't care about, like this one, and then an actual socket. This is how I pressed it back in. Then an actual socket that will fit over your new one. Okay, like that. And then I had to stand back from a distance and knock that sucker in. You can see how it's all flattened off. So that actually fits kind of perfect. That is a 36mm, and you can barely get the edges of that metal, and you know, knock it back in. It did take some doing. Pay attention to these lips, because you do not want the lip hitting the differential. Then it won't go all the way in, then it won't go up into the mount. So you have to make sure this lip is right, to where that as you're pressing it in, it's not going to be hitting the other side of the differential. Okay, remember that when you're doing this. Okay, all right, and then once this thing is laying down around here, then you can knock it in. You got it knocked in, bam. You go up a little bit as it's still hanging kind of on a decline, you know. Then you install your drive shaft, those bolts. Put them in, but don't tighten them all the way down. You still want a little bit of play, okay? You don't want to thrust this one up in there just yet. What I did was I put this one through but I had to back it out because these ones weren't lining up. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a view on how they look up under here. You're gonna have to like grab a hold of the axle and like pull down on this sucker and make it come down into place. I actually had to jack up the wheel to get the tension off of this axle so I can pull down on it and line this one up. This one, I had a little bit of trouble, but it was not as bad. Once you got off, see how I got them started, but they're not all the way in? That's how you do it. Thread in, you know, an inch or so, and then get in everything, and then you can go back and tighten everything up. So once again, guys, you need a long hammer, a short stubby hammer, 18mm ratchet with the 18mm socket. This I was trying to use to help knock out the bearing, but you don't need that. This kind of helped me line up the holes a little bit and to like kind of jar bolts out or help press them into that to get them started in those threads. You need this 36mm with a extension. Short one will do, but you can use a long one too. You're gonna definitely need a chisel, whether long or short. 7/8mm socket with the 7/8 wrench. This is for those bolts, because once you get those bolts out of the bushing, you can only go so far, then you got to wrench it. Okay, let me see. That's pretty much it. I'm gonna give you a view of the car. This is my STS that I got. For all you Cadillac fans out there, this is another Cadillac video. You know what? I still don't understand. People don't like to work on Cadillacs. This thing is not that bad. I put a water pump on it, which was $80. I mean, it was right in the front. All I had to do was take off the belt. Piece of cake. Okay, so don't be scared of Cadillacs. It might take a couple extra steps. This one actually has the North Star facing the right way, which I was very proud of. Actually bought the K&N for it, and new oxygen sensors, and just put NGK plugs in it, and it's hauling. It's hauling. Next thing I'm gonna do is service the transmission and change the oil with some Royal Purple, because I want this North Star to last, because I know they will break. Hopefully they're better in 2006. So guys, there it is, man. It is a little difficult, but it can be done. That whole job probably took about 4 hours, 3 hours. But now that you got the video, you know right what to get after. I did all the trial and error for you. So there it is, guys. Appreciate your time, man. Once again, your boy coming with them awesome vids for you, making stuff easy and simple. There you go. Have fun, man.